What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, we are going to do a little mailbag. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered here on the show. We had to give it a couple days. Anyone that slid in those DMs and said congrats on the wedding, congrats on the nuptials. I'm wearing a ring. I lasted with the silver ring for 24 hours. By the time I got back on Monday afternoon, I had already ordered rubber black and gray rings because I can't, the silver ring I can't wear on a daily basis. I can't go to the gym. I can't shower. I couldn't wear podcasting. Like, it just felt I could wear it to nice occasions. I'll wear it, if I'm dressed up or whatever. But rubber rings. A lot of people at my wedding were guys who had lost rings and said rubber all day. Immediately get home. Glad I did. But I appreciate everyone that reached out, said thank you, and or I thank you for your kind words. But let's dive into the mailbag. Do you think the Bills will get the same result with Joey Bosa as they did with Von Miller? Both older, past their prime, banged up, and coming from warm Los Angeles. I think it's pretty clear they are signing these guys to get over the Casey hump in January. But Von Miller couldn't stay healthy that long, and I wonder if Bosa will be able to as well. That's why I thought Myles Garrett would have been perfect for them. As a Pats fan, I'm fucking pumped to see us ball out day one in free agency. Our defense looks absolutely stacked on paper, and I like the Mac Hollins pickup. What do you think the next move will be in free agency? It's funny, I saw that the Patriots are doing a 1 o'clock or noon press conference, I think on Thursday, to introduce all their free agents. And someone on Twitter today was like, this is a foreign concept to the Patriots. I mean, Belichick for 20 plus years laughed at the notion of signing anyone in free agency. Now, in fairness to Vrabel and what they're doing, it's because of the roster, how crappy it was, that they needed more talent. But if I was a Patriot fan, I would be excited. You just got some real players at a bunch of different positions, not guys like, ideally you nail some franchise players in the draft, but Milton Williams is a real player. That's a really, really good draft pick, especially with a stud like Vrabel who knows defense. So I'd be excited. I think the difference, I remember Von Miller's career felt like it was slipping away. And then the Rams, I forget, was it a second and a third round pick? They traded for Von Miller, and the Broncos ate all the money. So they essentially bought picks, and they gave him Von Miller. I'm pretty sure Von Miller, the last couple games of the season and every playoff game, including the Super Bowl, had a sack. So the Bills were like, he's got it back. And then my number could be a little off, but I thought they guaranteed him close to $50 million. They gave him an enormous contract. They gave Joey Bosa 1 year, $12 million. And again, the numbers that we have, how did they guarantee him 5 of that 12 or 8 of that 12 and the other is incentives? I have no problem taking a swing on that. I have no problem doing 1 year deals on elite talents that are kind of older that have been banged up, especially if you're a good team. I think you do that deal all day long and twice on Sundays. Now, ideally, he's healthy for the home stretch and he could have some big plays in December and in January and help you get over the hump. To me, if you had given him 2 years, $40 million, you'd be like, that's crazy. But I can give 1 year deals all day long to guys like Joey Bosa. So I like the move a lot. And it's like, I thought, I don't know why I thought this because his brother was on the team. It's like, is he going to be a 49er? He made the right decision. They got you sign up $12 million, which was clearly more money than he was getting other places, including incentives or whatever. But to hop on the ride with Josh Allen, and they just got to keep him healthy because he's been hurt a lot. I mean, a lot, a lot. It feels like he's been way more banged up. And in fairness to Von Miller was a better player than Joey Bosa. When they're both like in the prime of their career. Huge fan from the outside of Chicago in the burbs. As a Bears fan since birth, 98, you're young, I can't remember us having a more stacked O-line this upcoming season. Lots of chatter coming out of the Bears should make a splash and take Jeanty with the 10th pick. But I'd rather snag another lineman for rotation like Campbell or Banks with Thuney being older. What do you say? Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. One, I am opposed to taking running backs really high when the depth of a running back class is deep. I mean, there are countless guys who will start for you in the second and third round of this draft. I promise you that. Now, if the equivalent of like Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson or Christian McCaffrey when he was coming out of Stanford was in this draft and you put him on the Bears team to go with your young quarterback and that offensive line, I think it would be really explosive. So, like, I'm anti taking running backs because it's an economic exercise. There are going to be sweet defensive linemen there. So, you could get a defensive lineman who can be like a cornerstone of your franchise, where ideally you're not drafting 10th again. But, like, if Jeanty turns out to be, I mean, an elite all pro talent, which I know he broke more tackles in college football than any other player. I got my start in the WAC, which is now the Mountain West. It is not the Big Ten or the SEC. He is a special player. He's an awesome player, but he did dominate in a separate level of competition than I saw him against Penn State, and it was much more difficult. Now, I'm not all this stuff is not apples to apples. Going to Chicago doesn't mean he won't be able to break NFL tackles, but it's a conversation we're having. If I'm Ryan Poles, at the end of the day, I think the right move. Again, assuming Jeanty becomes a good player, you got to assume the guy you're going to draft, ideally a defensive lineman. We just had this exercise last year. Rome Odunze a sexy player, Jeanty sexy player. Do you know what wins? Line of scrimmage. Go grab yourself. Where did the Eagles get Jalen Carter? Pick 9. Now, obviously, most drafts, if he hadn't been in trouble or gone through the car accident, he would have been the number 1 or 2 pick in the draft. But like there are going to be some players because a couple quarterbacks are going to go, a couple offensive linemen are going to push guys down. You're going to get one of the better defensive linemen in this draft. I just think that is the right football move. And then with a later pick, pull the trigger on a running back. That would be my move. Congrats on the wedding. I know you're a big Nashville guy. Would you ever consider moving down here? You know, when we were there, we Thursday I played golf with my brother-in-law, which is weird to say, and my brother, and we went down to Vanderbilt's course. It's been a rough winter, so the course is a lot of the grass is dead, but the course is sick. I've actually played there before years ago. The Vanderbilt clubhouse is remarkable. It really is. And when we were leaving the course, Peyton Manning was standing right there chipping. It looked like with his kid. I was like, damn, Peyton Manning's here. And the area in the suburbs out where the Vanderbilt course is in Franklin and Brentwood is just badass. So would I leave the West Coast? No. But if we do well in life, would I buy a place there? Without hesitation. Now, for my wedding, we were staying downtown. So it was basically like a Vegas bender, from Wednesday, Thursday, little bit Friday, and then really hard Saturday. So that's, the life in the burbs with the hills. It reminds me a lot of, where I grew up in Sacramento area, probably about 30 minutes toward the city where I would live for a long time in Walnut Creek. It's called the East Bay, Danville, Pleasanton. It's forever where a lot of like just people lived. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's some of the most expensive real estate in all of California. John Gruden used to have a pad there. It's just beautiful rolling hills. Franklin has some vibe like that, just a little safer and a lot less taxes. But I mean, it's now become very, very expensive. I would get a pad down there in a New York minute. I'm not a big humidity guy. That's my only thing. It is nice to feel their winter. It's kind of cold, kind of like that. But the humidity, I know it gets hot in Arizona, but there's humidity is a different animal. It's my only issue with the South. And the food, a lot of stuff's fried, but which I like. I just get really fat. Question for the mailbag. Thoughts on this? Niners should have let Purdy walk to keep some guys departing, and traded up into the top 5 or 7 to draft Shador. I think with Shanahan, he would be a great fit along with a quarterback on a rookie deal. With the Raiders Jets out of the quarterback race, Is the draft a very good chance he could even be there at 11? Truly depends. Would imagine Cam Ward is number one to the Giants via trade. I think it's pretty clear. I think the Titans are going to take Cam Ward. I think that's, to my knowledge, as we sit here right now, they have not signed anyone. I think Cam Ward is going to be the pick. And then my guess would be the Browns take Abdul Carter. And then the Giants are on the clock. It's like, do they take Shador or do they just take Travis Hunter? I don't even, do they have a quarterback yet? I guess it depends on Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. But uh, you can't, Purdy's under contract. Like, Purdy makes, if you draft Shador at 11, Shador makes way more money than Purdy would if he's just keeps his contract. So I think Purdy's not a free agent. Purdy, there's all this talk. This always drives me nuts. Last year about Tua, it's like, can't we just make him, or Trevor Lawrence? Like, whatever happened to finishing out contracts? Shit, the Bengals are doing it with Jamar Chase. Now you can argue people think the Bengals are crazy, but I would low ball is when I hear that term, like low ball relative to what? I'd argue like you're offering less than Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence contract's an embarrassment. So yeah, I'm gonna offer less than that. I mean, I don't do business like the Jags. I mean, look at their franchise. They draft in the top five every year. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, like I can't even relate to them. Like, I just think it's an awful contract. So like my take was simple: 3 years, 120 million, guarantee every penny. It's like you've been making $1 million. Who's turning that down? Play it out if you want. Like this is a business. Like whatever happened to being cutthroat in business? All of us deal with it in all of our industries. The NFL used to be the most cutthroat business, and now it's like, and it still is with all these other positions. Yeah, with quarterback, it's like, oh, how much do you want, Trevor? Brock, do you want 200 million? Here you go. It's like, unless your name's Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, like I'm negotiating the shit out of these deals. And it feels like some of these teams, like Tua, what do you want? 175 here, buddy. It's like, are you guys nuts? Was listening the other day, and you were talking about NFL contracts and said NFL contracts are nowhere near as big as NBA ones. Why is this? The NFL is far bigger product, higher ratings, and meaningful regular season. Unlike the NBA, football is so much more physically demanding. What gives? Numbers. I mean, there are 12 guys on an NBA team, and your top two guys on an NBA team can carry you to championships. There are 53 guys on a roster, and even if you have a top heavy roster, you need, I don't know, 7, 8 elite players, and then you need a second tier of another 10 guys. So there are just more mouths to feed. It's just if there were 12 guys on an NFL team, then I think NFL players would make way more money. But you have to have a roster of 53 guys. So I just think it's just a math game. It's if you do the total accumulation, the NFL is making way more millionaires than basketball or baseball because they're just more players. Now, the top guys make way more money, but the guarantee thing is like a business thing. Like the owners fight to not guarantee the money because of the risk is involved with the injuries. Now the money's so big, even if you don't get everything guaranteed, you're still making so much money. It's kind of got to the point where revenue's so huge. It's like, even if I get $100 million contract, I don't live it out. I still get 70 million of it. It was way shittier for the guys back in the day when the numbers were way smaller and you were a good player. You'd sign like a 4 year, $20 million deal. You ruin your leg year two and you'd only get 8 million, which again, 8 million 20 years ago, still a lot of money, but the amount of money they're making now is so huge. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are. With the all new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From dunks to assists to rebounds, get behind your favorite player and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook and make your first pick. First time? Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN, that's code JOHN, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I was thinking, since the Vikings are probably going to roll with McCarthy, I don't think there's any thinking. They are rolling with McCarthy. But I think they would get Flacco or Gardner Minshew as a veteran quarterback. Both have experience and are top of the line backup quarterbacks uh, in the market. Thank you. What do you think? I would guess that they sign some guy like that. I mean, you're going to need some insurance just based on the dude got missed the entire first season because of his knee and needed multiple surgeries. And the last time we saw him, he looked like he weighed kind of jealous, like 175 pounds. But I would, yeah, I mean, I would be stunned if they don't pull the trigger on some sort of veteran quarterback. The terminology bothers me. This is a mailbag question. Tampering. Tampering is defined as making changes to something that you should not, usually when you are trying to damage or do something illegal. But it's not against the rules. But more to the point, I'm a layman. For those of us who aren't in quote unquote the know, can you explain why this tampering period even matters? Why not just let people talk you around? What's the point? Well, you can't let people talk you around because I can't we can't have what's tampering is way more, I would say, describes what's happening in college football. Let's say it's week 4. Let's use the NFL as an example. And I got Milton Williams on my team. I can't have other teams talking to him about a future contract. That can't happen. And that's what happens in college football. So the year-round talk, you can't have that because that is just it becomes very shady. Even though it kind of, I mean, it's not like conversations don't still happen, but that is not allowed now. I do think once the season ends, they kind of pretend that these last couple days, like give me a break. I think at the combine, it's why the NFL doesn't really get anyone gets in trouble. It's a free for all. So you could argue just I talked about this yesterday, just let everything start at the combine and pick a date when you're allowed to make things official. But like everyone's allowed to do whatever it becomes official, partly because you got to cut down your roster for cap reasons. But maybe Wednesday the 12th this year, everything becomes official like it did. But starting Saturday of the combine or Thursday of the combine, you're allowed to do whatever you want. Theory about Daniel Jones and the Colts. I think the Colts know that DJ is bad and are using him as a metric against Anthony Richardson. If he can't beat Daniel Jones, then he's done. And if he does, then hopefully there's some confidence built. Pretty sure this is his last year in his rookie contract. No, he's got one more year. If assuming they don't pick up the 5th year option, which they would have to do at the end of this year. This is going into year 3 for Anthony Richardson because he was in the CJ Stroud and Bryce Young draft. Pretty sure this is the last year of his contract. I think uh, if he isn't what they expect, then both will be released and the Colts will draft a quarterback high. Like you said, Daniel is book smart. Maybe that's what they think AR needs. I don't hate that theory, right? If he can't beat out Daniel Jones, then you're done with him. And if he does, it just might build a little confidence. Don't hate that at all because you can't bring in a guy who could like legitimately beat him out, right? Who like in training camp, you couldn't bring Gardner Minshew back, for example. What if Gardner Minshew just knows Shane Steichen's system is just better? It's like, well, he gives us a better chance to win than Anthony Richardson. So you bring in a guy that you think actually is bad, but if he does somehow win the job, then the Anthony Richardson experiment is one of the worst of all time. But if Anthony Richardson beats him out, then just build some confidence, but he still has to do it on the field. I don't think it would cement his future with the Colts, but you're right. It would give some confidence. And listen, any young person who's listening to this can relate, or old person my age that has been young, like confidence is very fleeting. Comes and it goes. When you got it, you just feel on top of the world. And when you're young, you can lose it really quick. And it feels like you're never going to get it back. So Anthony Richardson, he can act, and I'm not saying he is, but like did feel early on kind of cocky. It's like, bro, this is just really, really hard. This is not easy, bro. This is not easy. How painful was it when your wife made you kiss her in the middle of a busy intersection? Uh, I think he's talking about something that got posted on Instagram. It really wasn't. It was her idea. We threw a reception at the hotel. We did a small wedding. There were like 60 people there. and we did the reception and we got married at the hotel. We had dinner at the hotel, and then we rented out basically a block away from the hotel at one of the bars on Broadway, just our own little floor with a band and open bars and stuff. It actually turned out to be pretty sweet. But when we went there, we walked past it to go to the intersection, so take like a picture so you could see the whole strip of Broadway in the back. It was her idea. I think it actually worked out pretty well. One thing I realized, like our house, we don't really have like decorations or paintings or pictures. Like it's pretty barren. Like you would think I'm like a football coach. Like I could leave at any moment. So hopefully we get some stuff to just decorate the house with. But it was a good idea by her. Mailbag. What are your thoughts on the outlook with the Arizona Cardinals? I believe coach has turned the tide and the team plays extremely hard for him. How do you think they're trending? What else do you think they need to do to get back in the playoffs? Well, they need the quarterback to play well. And I thought last year the quarterback kind of fell apart as the season went on. I mean, at one point in time, were they 5-5 or 6-6? Like they looked pretty feisty. He had some bad moments in some big games. Now, defensively, you add Sweat. Hopefully, you get a little pass rush. Maybe you add another pass rusher in this draft. You drafted Marvin Harrison over Malik Neighbors. And as someone told me going into that draft, they're like, he would, the Monty Fort is not going to take Malik Neighbors. Too much risk involved, even if he is the better talent. Okay. So you take the high floor guy, the guy that can't miss. Well, his high floor was like, this guy is going to be Pro Bowler. It's like he got a long way to go. And he's solid, but like Malik Neighbors looks like his talent has a chance to be like a special, special player. I'm talking like Malik Neighbors looks like if he's healthy, a top five wide receiver in the NFL. So when you make a move like that, you need Marvin Harrison, even if he's not as good as Malik Neighbors. You need to be like, well, Marvin's going to make 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. It's like, okay, you'd be okay. But if you don't, like that'd be a little bit of a problem. So I'm with you. I like Jonathan Gannon. Um, I do think the quarterback's a little bit of a wild card. I kind of enjoy him just because I think he's one of the biggest freaks in the history of the league. I mean, he's 5'9", and he's like faster than everybody, and he's got a huge arm. But like that size does limit sometimes like his ability to see. It's pretty clear. But they're just a weird team. I just don't I think you can have good months. I think it's hard to have good season with Kyler. It's weird because he's not bad, but is he good? That's my thing. It's like there are a lot of bad quarterbacks in the NFL. That is not Kyler. Like he can have bad games or make bad throws, but like he can play. But like, is he a top 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterback? Or does he just like some weeks he'll be 8, and then a lot of weeks he'll be like 18, which can be a problem when you're paying a guy a lot of money. He's one of the more bizarre players in the league. Big fan of the show. Congrats on the marriage. Can you talk about TJ Watt on the last year of his deal and only set to make 21 million? I can't believe no one else has brought it up after the Garrett deal. I think there's no way he plays at that number. Any chance Pitt deals him? I did not know that. I would say there is just like, what's his number now? He's been injured a couple times. Like Myles Garrett is just a better player. God, you're right. This is the last year of his contract. Cap hits 30 million. Cap hits pretty big. I guess you could extend him. TJ's a badass, but how old is TJ now? So he'll be 31. So he's a couple years older than Garrett. I mean, would you give TJ? I don't think he'd get quite Miles's number, but are you giving him $120 million? So you're basically locking him up till he's like 34, 35? I- I'd probably play it out because I mean, the league you already started and you're playing him on the $30 million cap hit. So I think that one's tough. He had some injuries last year. That would rattle me a little bit. I mean, he's had some sweet seasons, but I don't know. In 22 he was hurt. Last year he didn't miss any time, but he was banged up a lot. It's a tough one. I probably would play it out. You have to become the general manager of one of the top 5 draft picking teams. Who do you pick and why? So we got the Titans, we got the Browns, we got the Giants, we got the Patriots, and we got the Jags. So I can immediately throw away the Jags, though be a good little golfing area. I wouldn't choose that. Patriots just too cold and shadow Belichick or whatever. I think for me, Cleveland, no way. No offense to people that live in Cleveland. I appreciate your love of football in Ohio. I really do. Just not a huge Midwest guy. To me, it's two choices. It's the Titans in Nashville is the easy choice, I think, for me. Live like a king, beautiful area, easier division. It'd be just they're building a brand new stadium. That they're probably like a year away. I'm sure they're gonna host a Super Bowl there. I think it's gonna have a retractable roof. Um, just an awesome place for football. They care about football deeply in the South. And unlike Jacksonville, I think the Titans are just a much bigger brand. That's the easy choice for me. At, if you're a football guy and you're going to accept one of these jobs, I mean, taking the job of the New York Giants is kind of the real deal. I mean, it if you win as the general manager of the New York Giants, you become a fucking legend. Period, point blank, end of story. So I think, do I want the lifestyle or do I want to go for broke and try to become a legend? And it's not easy, right? But if you get it right and you build winning football teams and you're Jerry Reese or you are Ernie Accorsi, like, it's you become minted in that city. And I'm not even a big New York City guy, but sports mean a lot in the Northeast. And the Giants and their history, multiple Super Bowls with Eli, multiple Super Bowls with Parcells. And when it's just solid, when they're just like competing a 9, 10 plus win team, like you're playing in the biggest primetime games every year. You play the Cowboys and the Eagles, and now the Commanders are good. Like it's just a lot of eyeballs on that team. And it's why it's kind of sad what's happened to them now because their games are so irrelevant. They've been so bad. And here's the other thing. Like, are you talking like right now? If I just became the GM or like, football guy X becomes the GM of the New York Giants and you resurrect this franchise, and then like next year, like think of Adam Peters and Dan Quinn when they were walking around DC. It's like, Dan, we got you. We'll get the check, which I always find funny. Some you always hear like football coaches or quarterbacks never have to. Brandon Graham never has to pay for a drink in Philly again. Jalen Hurts. It's like, Brandon Graham's worth like $100 million. Like, I mean, a lot of people that come in here don't have the money. But listen, that's a rant for another day. But I always find that never has to pay. The richest people never have to pay. It's always great about being rich and famous. You actually get a lot of free stuff, and we're just a normal citizen with, limited funds. You actually have to pay for everything. No one gives you shit. But uh, when married, she'd want to go to Nashville. I think from a football standpoint, you'd have to swing for the fences, man. New York Giants resurrect them and just try to become a legend.